Welcome to Inspired Changemakers, a podcast about all the amazing things people are doing to make the world a better place. This podcast is about creating change in the moments that inspired our guests to activate. My name is Julia Healy, and I'm the CEO of United Charitable. Stay tuned to be inspired. All right, Staci, welcome to Inspired Changemakers. Thank you so much for being here today. This podcast is really about people that create change and fight hard to create change and serve something that's higher than themselves. And you are just definitely the definition of that. So I'm going to start with your bio. And I'm going to get your last. Staci Reidinger, there you go, is a 24-year U.S. Marine Corps veteran and an Ironman triathlete and an award-winning PR and marketing leader. The co-founder and managing director of Cause San Diego and the Cause Conference. You have over 20 years experience in marketing, communications, and nonprofit leadership. You're an alma mater of the University of Colorado, San Diego State, and USC San Diego, and you're passionate about women's rights, preventing homelessness, and supporting military veterans.
Yeah, that's it. That sounds great. Thank you for that intro.
So I really want to just dive right in with military. Why, is it in your family history? What was the Marine? Were you like, hey, I'll just wake up and be a Marine?
Yeah, so it wasn't quite like that. I didn't even think I'd be doing it until maybe my high school, junior year in high school. It hadn't crossed my mind at all. My dad had served in Vietnam in the Marine Corps and his brother. And then on my mom's side, three generations of Navy. My grandfather was World War II, and then his son, and then after. But none of those men ever really influenced me in the military. They'd all served before I was born, so I didn't have that push. And my dad really, with Vietnam, it was kind of you get home, you put your sea bag away, and you don't talk about it. So for me, honestly, I was with my boyfriend, and he was at 18, and I was 16. He was going to, we were going out with some friends, and he saw the recruiter's light on at a little bitty shopping center in my hometown. I'm from Southern Louisiana. We pull in. I hear what the recruiter has to say to him, and literally my boyfriend's gone 2 weeks later to boot camp. And I was like, okay, I didn't know that was going to happen. But yeah, so he was gone, and I watched him during that time, and we wrote letters and sent pictures, and I saw him, and he looked quite amazing in that dress blue uniform.
Oh, yeah.
And I was an athlete, multi-sport athlete throughout high school, basketball, track, cross country. And so at some point, I got a hold of a recruiter, or they got a hold of me, and they just talked to me about it. And I'm like, oh, so you get paid, I can travel the world, and you guys give me a chance to work out all the time? That sounds kind of cool. Yeah. And that was kind of what it was. And the other part was my grades weren't that great. I was smart, but I was definitely, off doing other things and not focused on studies. So my thoughts of going in to be a veterinarian or a lawyer, which were some other inspiring options, they quickly disappeared. So
right.
Yeah.
And then and you served, you said 24 years?
Yes. Yeah.
That's crazy. And so you were giving me the statistics earlier. Can you give me them again about women in the Marine Corps?
Yeah, so women in the Marine Corps, we tend to have the smallest amount of females of any military service because of the work that we do. We are the smallest branch as well when it comes to the major branches. So for females who are enlisted, I started enlisted, and then about 12 years in, I became an officer and did 15 plus years that way. On the enlisted side, the women make up about 10 to 12% of the military serving in the Marines. And then on the officer side, it's even smaller. It's probably like 4% or so. So we're kind of that unicorn that you might find every once in a while that's out there.
But is that where you think you got your service, your service mentality, or you serving the greater good?
Yeah, so I actually think it started even earlier than that. My first real touch point that I remember and recall was going out with my grandmother in her station wagon. We'd pull up to the back of our hospital in our little town, Morgan City, Louisiana, and we would get these styrofoam boxes filled with food. And then I would go with her and deliver those out around our town to a lot of impoverished areas where people were stuck in their homes because they were elderly and couldn't leave. And we would just give them a meal and hang out and talk to them. And I saw them smiling. It gets me a little emotional because some of these people probably wouldn't see anyone for a couple of days until we brought a meal. And so that's where I'm watching my grandmother who, volunteered at our church as well, and my other grandmother. And I think that's what led me to seeing that there's other people that need to be uplifted. And so that kind of led me towards it. And then the Marine Corps just accelerated that. Yeah.
And really, I can't. So the physical toll how did you just get through that? The training, but you said you were always an athlete. So the Marines, that didn't challenge you at all.
No, it doesn't, I don't really think it matters how strong you think you are, because they have perfected the ability to make you feel like nothing. And that's why they do that on purpose.
Right.
The whole beginning process of boot camp is to tear you down. We cannot survive individually.
Right.
They take the I away and they bring the we in.
Right.
And they show you we will work together. And so everything from marching together, you do everything together, you shower together, you go in the field. And so then when you walk out of there, you've transformed into someone that truly understands what teamwork is about. You understand the importance of sacrifice and discipline.
Discipline, that's I couldn't imagine to be that regimented. Then what made you want to become an officer?
Yeah, so when I was junior enlisted, I really didn't have that chance when I first joined the military before that to go to college. And I had some mentors around me who saw something in me that I didn't. I was actually a single mom by the time I applied to become an officer. I'd gone through a marriage, had my first daughter, and I was essentially, divorced and had a child. I was going to night school, trying to figure stuff out because I wanted to make sure that I love education. I just didn't have those opportunities. So I was accepted to a program that allows about 95 Marines a year to get accepted, and they accepted 3 women out of that group. I was one of the 3. I was like, woohoo! And, but I'm telling you, this wasn't just you don't just submit a document. This was like a small novel that had to be submitted with all of your endorsements and all these recommendations, lots of interviews. And so that was my chance. And so I really wanted to do it because I wanted my young daughter to see a woman that was powerful, that wasn't going to let any circumstances prevent her from being successful. And I was the first high school graduate of the 3 girls that my parents had, and the first one to go to college to do that. So that was a very big piece as well, that I wanted to have a chance to kind of break us beyond where we were. Yeah.
It's so hard sometimes to be the first, especially in our families when we're not used to it. So that's it. And then what year did you leave the Marines?
So I retired in late 2017.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And then you have now started your PR journey and your nonprofit journey and just serving. And what made you call to the San Diego area?
Yeah. So I was actually stationed here. I got stationed here in late 2008 to Marine Corps Station Miramar.
Okay.
And then I was quickly given orders. At the time, we were building up in Afghanistan. So I had orders to Afghanistan, and I deployed with U.S. Forces Afghanistan and ISAF, which is it's a NATO joint command, and I was there for 13 months. Wow. And so when I got back, then I ended up having 3 years out supporting and being the lead for the Marine Corps Station in Yuma, Arizona, which I had the family stay here. So it kind of a hardship. I was living there, coming home on the weekend. And then I was back. And so I got to go to San Diego State for a master's program. That was kind of a Benny with those of us that love school.
Right.
And then I went up to Camp Pendleton at 1 MEF and 1st Marine Expeditionary Force, got to work for the 3-star and the 2-star general there. Amazing, led like a staff of up to 52 Marines that were traveling around the world and just doing PR, marketing, communication, crisis comm, all of it. So it was awesome. It was an amazing 24 years. Sometimes I just blink my eyes and go, did I do all that?
I'd like to thank United Charitable for sponsoring today's Inspired Changemakers podcast. United Charitable is a national nonprofit that focuses on guiding you on your charitable journey. Whether you like to simply streamline your giving or you like to create your own charitable initiative, United Charitable has the knowledge and resources to support you. If you'd like to learn more, check out the link in our bio. You're like, am I? But what really made you call to take over Cause San Diego?
Yeah. So,
and tell me a little bit about the project as well.
Yeah. So for Cause San Diego, it wasn't Cause San Diego that actually came to the table. It was Cause Conference, which has been around for 25 years. By the way, we just had our conference yesterday for the 26th time. And for 22 years, this conference fell under the American Marketing Association. It's a great association around the country. I've been a part of it for a bit. And after COVID, they were unable to sustain all of their programs and it detached. And for those 22 years, it really focused on making the nonprofit sector more effective. And it brought in the for-profit side. And then eventually it evolved into cause marketing, where they could talk about how they could both benefit from those relationships. But after COVID, what we realized after the 2022 conference was that we saw an opportunity to stand up something that could really activate the business community and see how they could be more pronounced in the way that they support the social impact sector and all the things that need help. We also realized that only 6 to 7% of giving is actually coming from the corporate side. There's so much more to give. So that's kind of where we went. And at the end of our 2022 conference, I was a volunteer. We had a leader there, Larry Kesslin, and he approached me in early 2023 as we were literally wargaming. What are we going to do? We were coming up with this name, Cause San Diego.
Yeah.
And he said, I think you're the person. You have this background that's amazing, very diverse. You've done government, business, nonprofit, all of these things. And you teach at higher ed level. Could you help with this? And that's kind of where we went. So I grabbed along a wonderful co-director, Delinda Forsyth, who's still involved as an advisor now. And last year we picked it up and really brought in business leaders, asked them where they need help to move it along. We brought in big players, big B Corp companies that are involved, and Dr. Bronner's, which is huge out there. Mission Driven Finance is here in San Diego and also broadly out around the nation. But we need to get more, because I will tell you, our conference that we had yesterday, even though we had close to 400 attendees, we still had a very small percentage, I'd say probably 20 to 25% for-profit business. Right. And so we've been talking about that and how do we get more of them that say, we're not doing any harm. Why do we need to be involved with this? And we're really saying, actually, we need everybody to row the boat for us really to make big, major systemic changes that are necessary.
And when you're looking about making those changing, if you're doing it, and the conference was absolutely amazing. I was very lucky to be there and present as well. And, one of the things that I got out of the conference yesterday is that it's going to take all of us. We all have our role. Mm-hmm. So tell me why it's so important that the community work together.
Yeah, so we've actually done a lot of research. The team that we have, we research things like Gallup and other areas, other professional organizations that are digging into business. And there's a couple of things that we've found. One of the things that we found is that in San Diego County and even across the country, a lot of the organizations across sectors work in their own silos, meaning that, let's say a corporation, they have a cause that they want to lean into, but they don't listen to the grassroots issues happening on the ground. And so what happens, there's a mismatch. They'll come out, say, we'll give out grants, fill out a grant. That nonprofit on the ground will do whatever they can to get that grant, which also means reshaping the mission they have. And that hurts us over time because that happens over and over and over. Or you've got the nonprofits who need support. They're not quite sure of how to run themselves as a for-profit business, because unfortunately they need to know you still have to be profitable. Okay, I have an MBA. I understand if I work nonprofit, we still have to be profitable if we're going to do what we do. And so those are some of the issues. And then the other thing that we found mostly, some of the most highly successful organizations out there are successful because they have a purpose-driven mission that goes beyond profit. They take care of their employees, giving them a living wage, making sure they have good benefits, making sure they have childcare, healthcare, all these things that if you take care of them, they'll take care of your business.
Right.
And those are things. The other thing we noted is that your customers and Gen Z, they are voting now and making decisions about what they do more and more, looking at the organization and the brand. Is that brand positively or negatively impacting society and our ecological system? What does your supply chain look like, right? Yeah.
And I think it's really important, especially because, and just to be clear, you are one of United Charitable's fiscal sponsors.
That's right.
And I am. So I'm very excited to have you on even more because I just love the example of a program that you are and how you run and your mission and vision and all that. But I think it's really important now that people do realize that we expect more, right? We want the world to be a better place, and we want to work together with other people. And that was what was so inspiring about yesterday is like you felt like you were part of a community that was actually working to create change. And so what are the kind of the things that we're highlighting that you think needs to really be changed in San Diego?
Well, for sure, the way that we go about trying to prevent and end homelessness. That is the number one issue. I brought that up on stage yesterday. By far, you cannot go anywhere in downtown San Diego region without blaringly seeing that we have human beings perishing on our streets, living in our ditches, living in just squalor areas and not getting the needs, the things that they need. And what we found with that issue in particular is that we have billions of dollars pumped into this. San Diego has the fifth highest level of homelessness in the whole country. California state obviously has the most homelessness levels of the whole country as well. But with us specifically, we just see the numbers going in the wrong direction. We see more people going into homelessness in our numbers than coming out of it. So for every 10 going in, we got like 12 going. We have for every 10 going out of homelessness, we have 12 more coming into homelessness. So it's just this piece that we're battling. And we truly feel, like I said before, the silos are what are hurting us. We probably have, I'm going to take a guess, almost 100 homeless service providers in our region. And they're not necessarily all working together. And they're all vying for the same dollar to support what they do. Right. And the dollar and the scarcity is what's creating the silos. Right. Because they're scared to share the funding. They're scared to kind of work together as partners. But the biggest successes we see right now are when we see multi-partnerships happening. And the biggest ones are government, for-profit, and nonprofit, and even education sector. All of them coming together and working in absolutely amazing ways. And it's not all about money. Right. Some of these organizations that are coming into support, we're going to come in and uplift what your nonprofit's doing to help you get the notoriety you need to get the support. Or we're going to offer you some type of pro bono services, in-kind support, volunteers from our employees coming in. That's sometimes the nonprofits don't even need your money as much. Some of it's just coming in and augmenting and being their staff because they don't have it. So right. those are the issues, and we just will not be able to really make a dent in reducing homelessness here or preventing it until we have more affordable housing for all levels. And I'm talking even middle income. Right. Because here, what happens is the middle income can't afford it, so they buy the low income homes. The people in low income then go get the homes that are at the bottom of the bottom, and then everybody else is off the edge. And so that's that we don't have enough housing for all these different groups. One of the highest levels of homelessness that's spiking are those that are 55 and over. Those that are 55 and older who are moving into retirement, maybe 55, 60, 65, when they drop into the point where they have to stay on their pension or they have to be on their Social Security, they can't afford it. They can't even afford having maybe even their property taxes, even if they own their place, right? So they're then having to jump out to something else. We see also some people leaving because they can't afford it. I have a neighbor, Ken and his wife bought the home in my neighborhood. Our homes were built in the 70s. And they packed up. He retired from Poway High School as a bus driver, and they left Tennessee. And it was sad because all their family live in California. Right. But they can't live there. So you got to do something for these people. This is not, we have to stop being so divided. And I have to tell people it is not a political thing. These are human lives. Right. It's not a political thing. Don't ride this on, a ticket. Yeah. And I think that also plays into it because each politician that comes in, they all have their own agendas. And so the way that homelessness gets partially resolved but not is that it's all about who's running on the ticket. And it shouldn't be that way.
I would like to thank Athletes Charitable for sponsoring today's Inspired Changemakers Podcast. Athletes Charitable offers a concierge membership service that provides the tools and resources to build a legacy through service. Our athlete-led team has the first-hand experience and expertise to provide hands-on support that simplifies the entire process for athletes and entertainers to reach their social entrepreneurship goals and create lasting impact in their communities. To learn more, check out the link in the bio.
And I think too, when you look at it and you look at a problem like homelessness, and
Mm-hmm.
and I see this with social entrepreneurs all the time. Sometimes there's issues that just seem too big.
Yeah.
Like how are we actually going to solve it? So it can create a lot of people from shying away from it.
Right. Right.
And that's one of the hurdles that I really talk to my social entrepreneurs about is that somebody's got to start it somewhere.
That's right. Yes.
And you can attack it in so many different ways. Like you said, there was 100 different programs, and I bet you they attack it from so many different areas.
Yeah. And some of them don't. And we've been talking about how do we match them together and get them to be in places like the Cause Conference.
Yeah.
You can show up, your guards down, let's be friends. We're not here as competitors today. And let's see what we can do. Because that, to me, I think we need fewer of all of these organizations. I think it'd be better if they were like what I am, what we are as a fiscally sponsored program, simply because I think that we can do a lot of amazing things without having to carry all that weight of what it means to be a 501c3.
But I think you kind of hit on it earlier about nonprofit is that most people don't think it is a business plan that you need to have. And the only difference between a for-profit and a nonprofit is that you don't pay taxes.
Right.
But you don't pay taxes on the revenue you earn. You still have to pay payroll taxes. You still have to have employees. You still have to have revenue streams.
Right.
Like you still have to you still have to have a business plan.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of the nonprofits fall short in that area is that they're so program focused that they get the $100,000 and they spend the $100,000 because there's no look to the sustainability or there's no look to like, where's the next 100,000 coming from. Right. And that's why I do. And, we can talk about it all day long. That's why I love fiscal sponsorship and I believe in it so much because I think it really takes away all that red tape and it gives social entrepreneurs the way or an ability to start fighting right away for the things that they believe in.
Yeah.
And so what is the future of Cause San Diego?
Oh my goodness. Ugh, the plans. So, we are in startup mode, we're all volunteer team. So regardless of that, I'm in it to win it. I really would love to continue to push forward and have Cause turn into something where we could do a Cause Atlanta, we can do a Cause Houston, a Cause Detroit, a Cause Portland, you name it. Because I really do believe that this model that we're developing is something that could work in other regions. But we're still young, we're still trying to get started. So what our goals are to continue to do very curated events that bring in organizations from different causes. Specifically, we're thinking like a Cause Homelessness or a cause, one that focuses in on youth mental health and just make it more niche to those causes. But another area that's funny, we're talking about homelessness, is that I've been talking to the city of San Diego, the chief operating officer, Eric Dargan. He was a speaker yesterday, and Tamara Kohler, who were on stage. She's the chief executive officer for the regional task force on homelessness, and Drew Mosier, who's with Lucky Duck Foundation. He's the CEO. A lot of us have been in conversation about how do we change the hearts and minds of our communities in our region so that they will be more open arms to our those who are unhoused. And so we're talking through an idea, and I'd love for Cause to kind of be recognized as a player, for us to do a grassroots campaign around the county in 18 different major cities that we have here in the region, do town halls, do essentially like a public service campaign about the realities of what permanent housing can do for those who are unemployed and those who are disabled and can't work and those that are very, very low income. So that's something we've been talking about. We've actually been working through some ideas for it. So that's for Cause to help with too. And then the other thing is to just be in places where we can uplift the businesses and the brands doing the right thing.
That what was so amazing about yesterday is that when you were sitting in that room and being a nonprofit leader, not that I'm fighting the mission-focused fight, but sometimes change doesn't happen as quickly as you'd like. And there are moments where you're like, oh, we just built this entire thing and we thought it was going to have more of an impact. And then you think about it and you're like, it was supposed to impact 100 people and it only impacted 85. I'm a failure. Right. And but you still impacted 85 people.
Right.
And those highs and lows that comes with running a nonprofit and affecting an issue, you gave us some real solutions and real ways to get through those moments. And why do you think it's so important to make sure the nonprofit leaders have the tools that they need to keep moving?
Yeah. So you just brought something up. And I think for nonprofits, we need to look at ourselves as a startup. And I think stop picking up books that are just about being a nonprofit and start picking up books that are about how do you be an entrepreneur.
Yep.
Also, start reading up and really understanding that you're not going to start something and it's going to just pop and then go crazy all of a sudden, just like anything else. You have to do proper marketing and branding and awareness building and all those things. And I think that I think you need to be realistic with yourself. I'll give you, for instance, with Homemade San Diego. I'm on their board. I also am a volunteer, a donor. We teach at-risk men and women who are formerly homeless, former incarcerated, former foster youth. We teach them construction skills working with our seed partner, Lennar San Diego. And we've taught over 90 students, and almost half of them we've gotten into full-time with benefit jobs, right? But let me tell you what. Our numbers, we will not ever hit our full goals because we have hard goals. And for nonprofits out there, I challenge you, have hard goals for yourself. Don't put stuff in there just so it looks good and it can look good on an impact report. That's not important. And I know that you need to put information in grants. You have to give yourself stretch goals, and they should be hard, audacious goals.
The best, so United Charitable has received, our programs have received, I should say, over just under $1 million in grants this year, like right under the 900. And what we realized from the majority of the funders, and it's been 5 major funders that have given us the funds, is we've gotten the funds because we told them what was missing, what we needed, what we were struggling with. And it's the reality of being that transparent, right? Being that vulnerable to say, hey, listen, this is what I really need. Like, I need this money for somebody that can do the capacity, like that whatever you need it for. But really, so not putting those shiny, like you can't just put a TikTok reel out there and get $2 million, Staci. Like that doesn't work like that.
It depends on the TikTok,
There
are some TikToks that are out there that, as a matter of fact, I worked with influencers when after the Marine Corps, I worked for the UPS stores, their PR and social media lead for the whole 5,000 plus franchises. And I can tell you seriously that, you get the right influencer. So
you
UPS get them
dancing driver.
Yeah, we've had some pretty awesome fun stuff that we've put out that has garnered, like, it'll jump from social into mainstream media. But yeah, so influencer stuff is real. It can happen, maybe we should get them more involved on the nonprofit side. Yeah.
But no, really going back to kind of what you were saying is just really having that consistent messaging and making sure that you're saying what you need and that you're really honest, right? And having for that nonprofit leader that does need those stretch goals to say, okay, we're going to help or we're going to do. Why? So the one thing that I have kind of just enjoyed working with you on is that you are incredibly self-disciplined.
Thank you.
You are a triathlon. Right?
Triathlete, yeah.
Triathlete. That's crazy. How do you think your discipline has really helped Cause San Diego kind of reach its goals?
Yeah, well, we're a small, little, tiny, scrappy volunteer team. And what I think I've been able to bring to the team is that I don't let the ship sink. And that at the end of the day, we will get the job done. I'm also one of those, it's progress over perfection. And sometimes 80% is going to be good enough. And so I think that those are things we have to take into account more. And also saying, I'm going to do my best. And being okay with that and not allowing the pressure of perfection to move you away from. And I also, when I say perfection, I think it goes back to we talked about goals.
Yeah.
Because also, by the way, when I worked at the UPS stores, their PR lead, and we had our quarterly performance evals, guess what? Before we went to the next quarter, we could adjust our goals. I really think that organizations out there that are nonprofits, I know you're busy and you're small, but have those conversations. Dig out your annual plan and look at it a couple times a year. It's okay to adjust what those things are.
Right.
I think that helps your whole team so that you don't end up at the end of the year, you're like, gosh, we should have detoured in June.
Right.
Why did Q2 go so bad? It's like because you
didn't adapt.
So just understand that it's a working document and you will make adjustments to it. The other thing about discipline is that I don't have anybody on the team that's military. And so I have to be very careful because obviously, I could be like, that, right? Super, So, and I am still sometimes I need to be, but I think the bigger thing is maybe I'm building up their understanding and I'm helping them themselves to feel more confident and to be more focused on what we're doing, and also like lighting a fire under them. Right. Because I've had plenty of those lit under me. I was like, I used to get yelled at all the time when I was a junior Marine.
Right.
And then eventually I started to like buck up and be more serious and do what I needed. But I love being an inspiration for others. And like yesterday, I had so many people come up to me and they feel like I'm inspiring them, yet they're feeding me.
Right.
At the same time. Anthony Flynn, by the way, off the hook. I got to bring him up. I know he was on your podcast earlier.
Yeah.
But Anthony, you were so amazing. And then we had just some amazing, Sam Mercooley, CEO for TCW Global. He is like a gold standard of what we want to see with organizations doing well and doing good. But yeah.
And I really and so, I have the pleasure of being able to work with you in the sense that I talk to you throughout the year, right? And I get to see the way you run yourself, right? Which I think it's really interesting to see. So my favorite thing is how many conversations have we had when you were in your car after your run, or how many times did you not let the task of what you had to do that day or take away from your personal goals.
Right.
So tell me how you kind of do you wake up 5 o'clock? Are you like a 5 o'clock in the morning?
Oh yeah. Yeah. So I don't know why you're bringing this up, but someone asked me that we had a pre-cause conference, CEO dinner.
Yeah.
And one of the CEOs at the table.
Yeah.
Because he looked at me and assumed military, right? We had 2 military officers in the room actually. And he looked at me and he's like, "Oh, you're a 5 a.m.?" And I'm like, "How'd you know?" And I said, "No, actually, if I go to bed at 8:30, I'm a 3:30 or a 4 a.m. And I said, I literally wake up, I'm wide awake, and then I'll get some stuff done. It's quiet. Emails aren't pouring in.
Yeah.
I mean, in the military active duty, when I was on the West Coast before during my last position, I'm literally driving from Poway up to Oceanside, which is about a 40-minute drive to get to work every day.
Yeah.
And I'm already on the call with DC. I'm on the phone with people all over the world making things happen in the car on the way there. So we're like expeditionary, okay? The Marine Corps is called an expeditionary force and readiness. I am an expeditionary force and readiness. I'm like a little, what do we call it? Like a Swiss Army knife of sorts, but it's not to be pompous. It's just to say that's how I'm built over time. I've been in the field for 30, 60, 90, 6 months, different times where I've just had to live in a very different environment that makes anything put in front of me now seem glorious. So when I've been in the shit, now it's like, the things that we do now, I'm like, do I need to do this in my car? Sure. I'll work in my car all day if I have to. I work with homeless people, and I've had a friend of mine who's on a board with me. They're like, do you live in your car? I'm like, no, I don't. But they were just, making that comment because to me, it doesn't matter what environment that I'm in. I just have this passion. And I think like Anthony brought it up yesterday, this isn't a cause for me. This is a calling.
Yeah.
This is a calling, and I'm trying to get more people to move with it. Yeah.
And so do you run? Do you still run? Like, are you a runner?
Yeah. So my next race I signed up for during the planning for this conference, because this conference has been taking me downhill for a couple weeks, right?
Right.
I have my next Ironman, Oceanside. It's a half Ironman in, I think, April of next year. So
what does that entail?
That is going to be, it's just, no, I'm kidding. It's a half Ironman. So it's we're going to swim for 1.2 miles. We're going to bike for 56 miles, and then we're going to run for 13 miles. So, so it's half. I've done the full.
All at once.
We're doing that all at once. Yes, you're getting your wetsuit. And believe me, Oceanside in April, 56-degree water.
Oh, wow.
So, it's also a whole new element of just, it builds up your grittiness, man. You know what I'm saying? You jump in there and we're done. You get on the bike. But to answer your question, very disciplined. I believe a strong mind needs a strong body.
Yeah.
If you strong body, strong mind, they go hand in hand. And I will also say plenty of the high octane people that I know, and even those that were in the military that were just working at really hard levels, they understood that their mental health also played very closely into having a fitness lifestyle. Working out is not a chore, it's a lifestyle. And
Right.
I push that on so many people to figure that out, because I think that it really does help you to stay on top of your game.
Especially as women,
Yes.
right? And as mothers.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I've talked to you about this and like the struggle of taking care of yourself as a mother, as a CEO, as all the things, but it's literally the most important thing that you can do for yourself.
Yeah.
But so I just appreciate how much you pour into not only yourself, but your community, the things that you believe in, and how passionate you are. So it has just been such an honor to have you on this podcast today.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. I
Yeah.
hope to come out to see you all on the East Coast soon.
We would love to have you.
Yeah.
But you are definitely the definition of an inspired change maker, and we love supporting your cause. And awesome and great cause conference yesterday. It was amazing.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it. And let's talk about our future. I think Atlanta definitely sounds like a good place. So I keep saying it. I'm kind of like that.
Manifesting.
Rumi says, what you seek is seeking you.
Right.
Right. So it's like you bring it and it manifests.
Absolutely. Awesome. Thank you, Staci.
You're welcome.
Find Inspired Changemakers on Instagram, YouTube, and LinkedIn, and comment on all the awesome things you are doing to make this world a better place. Don't forget to subscribe.